I have decided to do my final project on Irish Christmas traditions. These traditions range from old to new and cover various aspects of the holiday season. My goal was to be able to see how an Irish Christmas compares to what I know, a Canadian one. I also wanted to be able to observe the regional differences and similarities between common customs and beliefs. The 12 Days of Christmas. Despite the long lead up to Christmas, the 12 days actually start on Christmas Day and end on Epiphany, January 6th. Irish folks say that each one of the 12 days represents a different month, and they would use the weather during this time to predict the weather of each month. During these 12 days, people would leave the same candles burning until they were burnt all the way down. Because it was believed that during this time the gates of heaven were open, if you died, then you go straight to heaven. For the same reasons, it was very special to have a baby or be born during these 12 days. Christmas Eve. It was a very common custom to light a candle the night before Christmas and let it burn all through the night. Some people did this as a way to let people without homes know that they could come in on Christmas Eve, and in the morning they would be sent away with some money or gifts. To Catholic families, they do this as a way to communicate to a passing priest that that was indeed a Catholic home. Most European countries have a similar tale of animals being able to speak on Christmas Eve night. One Irish version of this belief goes like this. On Christmas Eve night, a man was walking through a stable when he heard two horses speaking to each other. One of the horses says, quote, "I will be carrying a heavy load on St. Stephen's Day," end quote. The man was very confused as to what this could have meant, but later that night he died. He was buried on St. Stephen's Day, December 26th, and it was that same horse who was carrying his corpse into his grave. Another animal-related belief was that at midnight on Christmas Eve, a donkey would kneel. It was said that the donkey would do this to give glory to God. Christmas Day. Christmas celebrations for Catholics would last nearly 2 weeks, starting on the 25th of December and ending on January 6th. In the morning, it was very important to attend Mass. Some people would even fast until after Mass, making communion their first bit of food for the day. One source in particular cites that Christmas Day was strictly a day for family, and it was even seen as improper to leave the house at all. More modernly, it is popular to dedicate a few hours of the day to charity and fundraising work. Commonly, people would take a cold dip in the ocean or run a marathon. As noted previously, during this time of year, the weather was very significant. Usually, whatever the weather was on Christmas Day, it would be the opposite on Easter. For example, if it was a warm Christmas, that would mean that Easter would be very cold. People would say that a green Christmas makes a fat graveyard because without the cold winter, crops could not grow properly, but a white Christmas would make a lean one. Food. Food is a major part of any holiday, so it should come as no surprise that there are specific Irish traditions surrounding food and meal times. For dinner, some type of bird would usually be prepared, a turkey or goose, but less commonly, a hen or chicken. Many sources confirm the usual Christmas dinner suspects like a roast bird, potatoes, and vegetables, followed by plum or rice pudding for dessert. However, one source in particular cites a boiled goose with a bit of bacon and vegetables, then sour milk to drink. Because tea used to be a big luxury for many people, Christmas and Christmas Eve were the days that they would splurge to drink it. If there was any tea left over, it would be saved in case someone was sick during the following year. One source writes that a very old Christmas tradition was to have a turf fire that would burn on both Christmas Eve and Christmas nights. If possible, people would cook their dinner over this fire. In order to make a good plum pudding, people would make it 3 months before Christmas Day and hang it from the ceiling before boiling it. If each member of the family did not stir the pudding while it was being made, it was said to not boil properly, resulting in a substandard plum pudding. And if your pudding breaks before boiling, unfortunately, you will die before next Christmas. On Christmas Day, animals also enjoyed a heap of oats. This was a way to recognize the animal's service and give them a small gift. According to this text from Eastern Ireland, a currant cake would be made on Christmas Eve. The text reads, "This is another old custom. On Christmas Eve night, the people would always have a great big currant cake, which they would get from their grocer when they would be getting the Christmas things. On that night, around 6 or 7 o'clock, they would get the big cake and cut it up and put jam on it, and they would have tea along with it. Before they would sit down to eat, they would light 2 candles in the window. It is done in some places yet." Shopping culture. Irish Christmases also involve a certain amount of shopping and materialism. Although usually less extreme than here in North America, buying was less centered on objects and more on ingredients and treats. Because most people used to live in more secluded areas, efforts were made to do all the shopping in one trip. The trip would give an opportunity for the family to go and sell their farm's products at a market and use that money to afford things that they would need on the holiday. This trip would involve buying all the Christmas meal ingredients and would usually happen in the weeks leading up to Christmas. During the early 1900s, the Christmas box was a tradition for shopkeepers in Ireland. Around Christmas time, merchants would give out Christmas boxes to their customers. The size and items of the box were dependent on how much customers spent at their shops throughout the year. Sometimes the items would include ingredients to make a pudding, sweet cakes, or alcohol, and it was a way for the shopkeepers to thank their customers for their loyalty. Decorations. December 8th is known to be the day when one is allowed to start decorating for Christmas. This would also be the day that a tree would be put up and decorated. There was big emphasis on cleaning the house until it was spotless around Christmas time. Many accounts also describe having to whitewash the walls as a way to prepare for the arrival of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. Many popular Christmas decorations are similar to how we decorate here. Holly, ivy, stockings, a tree, a Yule log, tinsel, and of course candles. Some people would also decorate by putting a small crib in their house and only placing a baby Jesus in it on Christmas Day. Religion. Religion plays a big role in Christmas for obvious reasons. Catholicism is the biggest religious group in Ireland, with 4/5 of the population being Roman Catholic. Because of this statistic, most of the practices and traditions explained in this presentation represent Irish Catholics by default. Midnight Mass on Christmas Eve used to be very popular. However, it has since been mostly adapted to a 10 p.m. Mass. One story goes that at a church in Dubally, there used to always be a midnight Mass on Christmas Eve, until this one particular instance. The story goes that everyone was heading to church to attend Mass, and they saw that the church was lit up on the inside. They could also see that the priest was at the altar saying Mass. Upon going inside the church, it was completely dark and no one was there. This caused major confusion, and a rumor spread that the priest had died that night, and ever since then, that specific church has not participated in midnight Mass. On Christmas Eve night, people's doors would be unlocked in case Mary wanted to come inside. It was also customary to leave her a glass of water in case she got thirsty, and a seat in front of the fireplace. As previously mentioned, Mass was also necessary on Christmas morning. Children. Christmas was always a very special time of the year for children, and for good reason. They would look forward to Santa giving them gifts and all the other customs that come along with the holiday. The night before Christmas, children go to bed early in anticipation for the following morning. That night, they'll put out a mince pie and a glass of whiskey for Santa to enjoy while he stops by their house. This time of year can also be a special time for older kids, as they can participate more in traditions. There will be more information on this near the end of my presentation. In addition, many years ago, it would be up to the children to collect fresh decorations for their homes. St. Nicholas. As mentioned, St. Nicholas is a very important part of Christmas for children. The real St. Nicholas is thought to be of Irish descent, and some people even believe that St. Nicholas was buried in Kilkenny, despite claims stating that his tomb is in Turkey. Throughout history, he was known to carry 3 bags of gold with him. Nowadays, Santa Claus wears a big red coat with a white trim and hat. He comes from the North Pole and would enter through your chimney and leave presents for the residents of the house. Very similar to North American Christmas traditions, children believe that if they put out their stockings on Christmas Eve, Santa Claus will come and fill them up with gifts and treats. One odd text from the Midwestern area of Ireland cites that Santa Claus and his 12 children would die at 12 a.m. on New Year's Day. However, this text was the only one that I could find stating that Santa Claus was dead. Christmas markets. Christmas markets are a much more modern Christmas activity. They are popular globally, but in Ireland, they are most present in bigger cities during the month of December. They are complete with lots of festive activities and Christmas spirit. These are places that you can go to buy Christmas gifts, spend time with your family, and of course, eat and drink. A popular market in the past couple years has been the one at Dublin Castle. The events last for the whole month of December and they sell out every year. Christmas mummers. Starting Christmas Day, the mummers, a group of 10 to 15 young boys, would go around asking for money. They would assume different roles. There was a captain, a doctor, Prince George, Jack Straw, and Beelzebub. Young girls would help make their costumes and then would assist them on the day. Their costumes were usually very complicated, with full straw masks and outfits. In order to perfect their performance, they would start practicing in November, and this would usually be one of the first signs of Christmas. Their performance could be seen as a type of play that describes one of the characters' life journey through death and resurrection. This was not only popular in Ireland, but also celebrated in Newfoundland, Philadelphia, and areas of the UK. I've attached a short video that shows a clip of their performance. You can see the differentiation of their costumes and the setting that they would perform in.
Room, gallant room, give me room to rhyme. Show a bit of activity upon this Christmas time. Christmas comes but once a year, and when it comes it brings good cheer. And if you don't believe the words I say, enter in the captain, he'll soon clear the way.
Here comes I, the captain of the noble crew. The same I will relate to you.
Europe harbours several varieties of the mumming tradition. In England's Pennine district, folks cherish the mummers or sweepers custom. They tell of the groups who call on isolated homes during long winter's nights, who hum ceaselessly as they clean the household, collect a donation and disappear into the darkness.
St. Stephen's Day. On the 26th of December, it was common to celebrate St. Stephen's Day. To many Northern European countries, this would also mean celebrating Wren Day. Very similarly to the mummers, there are wren boys. On this day, a wren or small bird would be hunted, then tied to the top of a pole, while the wren boys would go from house to house asking for food or money. The money collected was assumed to go towards the burial of the wren. A script from the central eastern area of Ireland reports that young boys dress up and go around playing music and dancing on Wren Boy. There are many different variations of the songs that the Wren Boys would sing, but one of them went like this: "Up with the kettle, down with the pan, give us a penny to bury the wren." Although the wren is very small physically, it is believed to be the king of all birds. It is known for its cleverness and loud song. The Wren Boys are usually in outfits made of straw or animal hides, with the straw representing grain and the hides representing animals. New Year's Day. Because New Year's Day and Eve are in the 12 days of Christmas, they are still relevant to the Christmas holiday season. Anything that you did on this day would dictate the whole year. As mentioned previously, the weather during the 12 days of Christmas is very symbolic. The weather is particularly important on New Year's Day because whatever weather happened was thought to continue all throughout the year. Because of this, it would be very unlucky for there to be a flood on New Year's Day, as the rest of the year would be constant floods. It is considered very unlucky to bring anything into the new year. This means cleaning everything on the eve. It is particularly unlucky to not remove water or old ashes before the day. Of course, throughout the night, even more candles were lit. Sometimes people would even leave both the front and the back door open to let out the old years and bring in the new one. Apparently, it would be very lucky if a dark-haired man, as opposed to a light-haired one, was the first to enter your house on New Year's Day. One source from Eastern Ireland writes that on New Year's Eve, kids would go out and throw cabbages at doors. They have also recounted that you should not eat blackberries or sloes after New Year's because that's when the fairies are out. Although some people still practice these New Year's rituals, nowadays it is more common to see fireworks, live performances, light shows, and parades on New Year. Epiphany. Celebrated the 6th of January and symbolizes the end of Christmas. This is why it is sometimes also referred to as Little Christmas. This holiday is 12 days after Christmas Day, and on Little Christmas Eve, 12 candles are lit and put in the window. It is seen as unlucky to take down any Christmas decorations before Epiphany. One story says that at 12 o'clock on Little Christmas Eve, water would turn into wine. And on one account, 2 girls stayed up and went to a well to see if this was true. They were found dead the next morning. Little Christmas can also be known as Women's Christmas because the women of the house can relax following the busy holiday season. They spend the day catching up with their friends, sewing, and gossiping as the men would stay at home to watch over their kids. These Irish Christmas traditions have proven to be rich with history. My hopes are that some of them are still continued in Ireland today and can be passed down through future generations. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and Nolag Hana Huich.